Let's talk about lunch, baby.
This
Let's
shit.
talk about you and me. Here we go.
Education Minister Erica Stanford says
she got a visit. Erica got a visit from David today. I think they're an item now. I think it's official.
I would love to be a fly in the wall for that meeting.
It's Stanmore. It's Stanmore, the new couple. They got a visit.
Offered David Seymour her full support as the pair finally held their meeting over the issue-plagued school lunch program. David Seymour insists it's getting better, but today Labor described it as an omni-shambles. Here's senior political reporter.
Chewie, I don't know if that really lands, to be honest. That might have just been one, he might have got to the point. How can we describe this as the worst of omni-shambles? I'm not really. I don't know if that lands as much as perhaps the PR team thinks it does.
Benedict Collins.
Meet Crackling the Pig. This Gisborne hawker chowing down on David Seymour's school lunches. Local kids find them far too bland and repetitive. Even when teachers insist they try them, the waistline grows.
I'm a little bit disappointed. I hate puns. Puns are the worst thing in the world. But for the reporter there to talk about the waistline growing and not refer it to one's waistline, I just think there was a perfect pun to be used that the reporter missed out on. Just my thoughts for next time.
Waistline grows.
See?
Well, I've also had principals get in touch with me and say, we really go out of our way to model to the children that this is food which is being given to us and that we're grateful for, and that's a good attitude to take in life.
So what he's saying is, no matter how shit it is, you should be grateful for what we're giving you. That's actually quite literally what he was saying. And he was saying it's good that the principals are modeling to the students that actually no matter how shit this stuff is, you're being taught you're pretty bloody lucky to be getting anything. That's what Seymour's saying.
I've also had principals get in touch with me.
And mind you, he's not saying I've had principals get in touch with me and say how beautiful the food is. Isn't it interesting that he's not saying that? He's not saying, well, I've had lots of principals come and get in touch with me and say how fabulous this new program is. He's saying the lesson that I'm hearing from principals is to be grateful for being given anything. So he's not even using an anecdote to paint his service in a good light. So this is so shit. When he tries to defend himself by using an anecdote that he's heard, the anecdote is still about the principal saying, we know this is bad, kids, but we just have to be careful for any bit of gruel that sir gives us. Please, sir, can I have some more? Sorry,
it's definitely a change in, it's definitely a change in tone from the fact that he was apparently getting letters from school children telling him how great the meals are.
I wonder if the letters were F and U. They probably were. They were the two letters, F and U.
I didn't believe in the moment he said that they were letters and not Snapchats.
All right, let's keep going.
Well, I've also had principals get in touch with me and say, we really go out of our way to model to the children that this is food which is being...
Sorry, I can't leave this. We've gone out of our way to model to the children. So what the principals are saying was it was actually kind of tough to model this. We had to go out of our way to model that these kids should be grateful. I mean, if it was cheesecake and lollies, you wouldn't have to go out of your way to model gratitude, would you, Chewie? Because the kids would be grateful. They'd be excited. But his anecdote to defend his product is to say that principals had to push shit uphill to say to these kids, we need to be grateful for this gruel. Okay, good win, Mr. Seymour. Mind you, remember that invitation's in your inbox. I want to talk to you.
Given to us and that we're grateful for, and that's a good attitude to take in life.
Yes, Chewie.
I was just going to say, do you remember all of those stories about Labor's lunch food program and how principals had to go out of their way to model being grateful, and that less than 2 or 3% waste that was going to pigs was entirely too much, and
criminal.
It's the comparison is jarring.
I think we're actually going to get that exact quote, and I believe, Chewie, it was criminal. Now, there's one other thing. Whānau, we need to support David Seymour in his difficult times. He's about to get asked a question about something he said last year. And that, no, Chewie, not funny. That is a gotcha question. And
my own words.
It's big meanie journalist saying, how can you justify these words last year? Big meanie journalist. And David Seymour points out, rightfully so, that him having to defend the hypocrisy about what's happening now and what he said last time is gotcha journalism. So just hold him close to your hearts, people, because Davey boy, he's struggling with all this gotcha journalism.
2 years ago, David Seymour was attacking the previous Labour government over almost criminal wastage in its school lunch program, pointing out lunches were going to pigs.
Yeah, your school lunches are literally being fed to pigs. Is that a bit ironic?
No, it's a good attempt at gotcha journalism for which you're becoming famous or rather infamous, but I just make the point that we're achieving wastage and surplus levels comparable to what we had before. Difference is we're doing it for half the price. For me, that's a big improvement.
A journalist asking you about your comments you previously made as gotcha journalism, was it?
Yeah, pretty much, because they're made in a totally different context.
Labour.
Yeah, the context was one that I don't want to have to defend. Remember yesterday, there was a journalist catastrophizing a situation, asking about the catastrophe that happened when a child got sent to hospital because of one of his meals. Yesterday they were catastrophizing. I know we all know this, but the right are such fucking snowflakes. They project strength. They project this all, look at you wokesters and all snowflakes and soy boys. And as soon as they get held accountable for what they said or what they did, they melt. They melt. And then unfortunately, because people on the right, supporters of David Seymour, are even worse cucks, they get in behind, pardon me, can't say cuck and get in behind in the same sentence, David Seymour, and basically say, how much do you get paid by the government to ask that question? Snowflakes. Chewie, sorry, mate.
Maybe what he needs is more robust questioning. David, are you free in the evenings? We'll show you the difference. If you want gotcha journalism, if you want mean questions delivered at volume, we can do that for you. That'll make this question from an RNZ journalist seem like a lovely soft handshake. Like this is ridiculous. I don't like drawing this comparison too much. His response is Trumpian.
Yeah.
Right? Because he goes, it's gotcha journalism, but then he has to follow it up with going, you're becoming famous for this sort of stuff, which is just nonsense. It's just nonsense. He's so disingenuous. He's so smarmy.
He's slimy.
And buried in there is the absolute egregious lie that apparently his swill pipeline has comparable levels of waste to the Labour program at half the price. Now that should be verifiable. We are hearing from schools hitting 70% wastage. The story that we're talking about, the school that has the amazingly named pig crackling, they're talking about getting 3 boxes of lunches and ending up with a bucket or a bucket and a half of waste from 100 kids. That doesn't sound like waste levels approaching 5%, does it?
Yeah, no, not at all. All right, let's get to the end of the story.
Reckons David Seymour's making a meal of it.
Look,
officially qualifies.
Yum yum.
It was the eyes, wasn't it? It was the 12 blinks. You can see he's struggling to swallow. It's the blinking. That's like, oh my God, what's in my mouth?
Labour reckons David Seymour's making a meal of it.
I think this now officially qualifies as being described as an omni-shambles. Basically, just everything that could go wrong has gone wrong with the school lunches program. David Seymour ignored all the advice at the beginning that his cut price lunches weren't going to work.
Yesterday, a key provider for the lunch program, LaBelle, was placed into liquidation. Whangaparoa College were blindsided.
And we're in the dark as much as anybody else.
LaBelle run their school cafeteria. Now, stocks are low.
The range is very limited, and we're probably running at about half stock levels, and therefore, learners and their families are having to source other ways of buying food and bringing food in.
Today, the Education Minister finally met with David Seymour.
They had a meeting. I bet you it was at a small two-seater table. They probably locked eyes, and then Erica threw up in her mouth a little bit.
To discuss the school lunch problems, more than a week after she asked him to meet.
We went through some of the complex and challenging issues, and I offered David my full support.
We discussed a whole range of issues around the school lunch program and how it's getting better.
Yet the ongoing problems mean the government's brought forward tougher monitoring of the program, with the potential for penalties if providers don't deliver. Benedict Collins, One News.
Well, there could be penalties, Chewie, but then they could also be just giving them more money because they can't do what they said they can do. Do you want to pick up on anything super quick? Because I want to keep going on to John Prendergast from this morning at breakfast. But if you want to use a chat or get in there.
I actually had squirreled away a little snippet from an article about the Compass Group supplying food overseas. I have lost that tab, I'm afraid. But if I could paraphrase, basically the exact same thing happened in, I think it was 2019.
Right.
That they couldn't supply to scale, they couldn't supply the quality, they couldn't hit their cost KPIs or anything like that. And that they promised that they would get better in the future. So if they're repeating the same problems here, like does this company have the ability to learn, to grow? Because they just keep repeating the same thing. This is a company that has been caught doing political bribes overseas. This is a company that has used mystery meat in their meals overseas. Like, why were they ever trusted? There's like, if you, what's your CV? Tell us why your company's good at this. There is not a thing that they could put on the table and go, yeah, well, certainly don't look at all of our scandals. That's irrelevant. We'll do a really good job. Yes, Matthew.
The answer to that question is because they were cheapest and the government needed to find $3 billion for landlords. That's why they chose them. Thank you. And then,
maybe that's what the principals need to really go out of their way to realise as the children. You have to eat this because we had to deliver more profits to landlords' portfolios. If you don't know what a landlord is, that's the person that mummy and daddy pay all their money to.
So now we need to do an official ask of the government to look at that contract, because this is John Prendergast. John Prendergast is the chief executive of Trust House. Trust House was one of the providers of school lunches before the change. When the government made the change, Trust House lost 50 of its staff. He talks about, is a $3 meal even possible? And you know what he says? These aren't $3 meals. And I know you guys might be going, oh yeah, Pat, we've heard you say this is probably a $2 meal or a $1 meal. No. These aren't $3 meals, because after they got the contract, they went, we need more money. So I wouldn't mind seeing that original contract, because it means that this government has not actually negotiated a good contract.
Can you realistically provide lunches for that price?
No, can we just go back to the $3? The $3 lunch is not a thing. The contract signed on the 22nd of October said $3. What hasn't been so widely publicised is that since then there have been a number of increases to that $3 payment.
Can I just jump in there, John? Sorry, can I just jump in very quickly, only because we did receive a response from the ministry who said that...
Ministry is getting ahead of this, you see that? See how the ministry is getting ahead of this?
Response from the ministry who said that the base cost still remains at $3 per meal per student. For year 9 plus students, an additional 84 cents per student is allocated for 2 extra food items.
So that's $3.84 for those years. They're not $3 meals anymore, but John has more information.
So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, so it's not a $3 lunch, but there's also been additional funding provided to schools to enable distribution of the meals within the schools.
So remember, we heard from that principal who said he was spending $1,000 to $1,500 a week on staff distributing food around the school. Well, apparently the government, according to John Prendergast, is now providing money to the schools for the distribution. So yeah, that may not be going directly to Compass, but there's another fee that the government is paying for these school lunches. So again, not $3 meals. There's one other thing.
Additional funding to schools to deal with the waste and the clean-up. That was all included in the previous price. And there's been a lot of talk about the $3 price compared to what's been cited as a $9 price previously. It wasn't $9 previously. It averaged about $7 previously. We think that the objective of achieving savings for taxpayers is good and it's well-founded. We believe that because
the last thing you want to overspend on is lunches for kids. Fuck those ones. Those kids of poor people, they've had it too good for too long, Chewie. They need to get taken down a peg or two, in my opinion.
We believe that if we had the opportunity, and we didn't have the opportunity in the ministry's procurement process to put prices in, we could put a price in that would be less than that average of $7 that it used to be, but it wouldn't be $3 or $4. We think the lunch currently costs around about $5.
So there you go. Someone from the industry who's lost work because of this change, who is now looking for work through this change, reckons they're about $5 meals. So this horse shit we keep hearing about saving, that's getting, I mean, $6 would be double. $5 is, what is that, 80% more on top?
Mm.
So this government telling us about, setting budgets and hitting targets and et cetera, and doing these $3 meals, and they're not $3 meals. They might be able to show you in their ledger how $3 or $3.84 is going to compass, but will they have on the same ledger the money going to the schools for the distribution of these meals? Will they have in the same ledger the money going to the schools for the cleanup and the waste from these? I doubt it. So let's just stop that straight away. These are not $3 meals, Chewie.
No, and this is showing another little governmental trick, right? Tell us the cost of one part, but not the entire program. You can do it on something small like a school lunch. You can do it something big like an inter-island ferry. Like, give us the total cost. And then show these meals side by side. Like, which one would you eat? What flow-on effects to the country or the community does buying it from Compass versus a local community group that knows the school, that knows the area, that knows the dietary restrictions, all of that sort of stuff? The cost of everything, the value of nothing.